Thanks for staying with us. You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The federal government has ordered the opening of the second Nnaji bridge to ease vehicular movement. The bridge, whose access roads are yet to be fully completed, is currently awaiting inauguration. However, at the 2022 Amber Month Road Sector Stakeholders Meeting in Abuja, Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, warned that the bridge will not be available for heavy-duty trucks. He also ordered contractors working on various roads across the country to remove all barriers that will obstruct a free flow of traffic this season.
You don't have to sleep overnight on the bridge because you want to go home for Christmas. That's part of what we're talking about. So he has also approved that since the bridge is finished, we should create a temporary access so that during this Christmas, you can begin to experience what life will feel like when we fully open it. So it will be open for traffic going from the west to the east from the 15th of December, this year, until the 15th of January next year. Let me be clear again, we haven't finished construction work, but we will open it for people to use to relieve the pressure on the one bridge so that you have two bridges. It will not be available for heavy-duty trucks. It will only be small vehicles for now until we finish our work.
Now, our second guest is a lawyer, politician and public affairs analyst, Dr. Chima Nnaji. And he now joins us to assess the performance or lack thereof of governors in the southeastern parts of the country. A good number of WU are currently winding down their second and final terms in office. As if that's not enough, practically all of them are at the moment scheming to go to the Senate at the expense of perceivably better candidates across the political parties. What should the people of that region who have so long been deprived of benefits of good governance consider when they go to vote in February and March? And come to think of it, there is currently a good dose of uncertainty around the elections in the face of unrelenting attacks on facilities belonging to the Independent National Electoral Commission all over the region. Great to have you here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, thank you for joining us this morning. It's good to have you. All right.
Pleasure.
Okay, let's just begin with this. When we talk about governors in the southeastern part of the country, is it fair to just paint them all with one brush to start with? Because, of course, different capabilities, different regions, and, of course, different portfolios. What would you say about that?
Well, it would be unfair to say or to paint all the states, the governors in one brush. That would be very unfair. But when you have about 3-4 cooks making different pots of soup, and it seems at the end of the day, even without consultation, at least open to the guests, the tastes come across as if they were made not only with the same condiments, but with the same people trained in the same school, catering school. I think that is the simple way to present my own understanding of what governance in the East is. Because one will not say there have not been activities in the various states, but the issue is, have the governors been scratching the people where it really itches? And the answer is as diverse as the people that you may want to come across in asking such questions. For me, some of the governors don't seem to understand what they actually were sent to the government houses to do. Some of them play politics to the point that good governance is relegated to the background, only to begin to rush on election year, especially in the incoming election, where it appears that people have become more energized and mobilized and highly enlightened about their political rights. And the political firmament seemed to have conduced to the possibility that people's will be enforced. So you begin to see some manners of gerrymandering on the part of some of the governors. And don't forget, some of them are at the terminal stage of their tenure as governors. And yet they still want to remain relevant by going to Senate. We will see how that works out, because it's no longer a situation where an incumbent, in a manner of sharing the cake, being the one that has ordered the baking, will just reserve one senatorial seat for himself and begin to bargain for those who will take the remaining. It's no longer it's not going to be that easy anymore, because some of the governors have outlived their usefulness, even in the states, as incumbents, and the pointers are there. So when you talk about governance, there are different levels of governance in different levels of, in the different states. But I can tell you that there has not been so much development in the Southeast.
Dr. Nnaji, thanks for that explanation. But do you think that in analyzing the performance of the Southeastern governors, and how it tells on their performance, does it have anything to do with party affiliation, given the fact that it's a 2-2-1 situation for the 5 states in the Southeast? ABGA has just won in Anambra. It has retained Anambra for a long while since Chris Ngige of PDP. PDP has 2 and APC has 2. PDP will have had 3, but because Ebonyi, Governor Dave Umahi claimed that he wanted more alliance with the federal, it decamped to the APC. Will their performance, if we're using different metrics and performance indicators to assess what they're doing, will it have anything to do with their party affiliation? Imo and Ebonyi are now in the APC. People say, yeah, that Dave Umahi may not have done too badly, but it's got nothing, absolutely nothing, to do with alignment with the federal. Where really is the problem with the Southeast governors? Is it about the fact that there is no oil windfall coming to them? Or is it about the fact that, as some people have observed, there is really no leadership when it comes to the collective administration of the Southeastern interest? Will that be the trouble with the Southeast from your own assessment?
Let me appropriate one of the last words you used, leadership. A leadership will completely articulate the needs, hopes, expectations, desire of the people that are led. The leader is simply the one that galvanizes this. It's not that he's trying to manufacture things from the blues. It is that he has the spirited element in him to champion, to envision the best strategy to achieve the collective good and will of the people. That's what leadership is about. It is not a place somebody just goes for personal or self-aggrandizement. Some of these governors, don't forget, like you rightly said, there's a party factor. But that party factor should not be operating in the Southeast only in the negative. But the truth of the matter is that there is a scramble for the Southeast. A scramble in the sense that you don't want this child that was born to walk, because you believe that if the child walks, it might be able to challenge you to a duel. The child may not actually be planning to, challenge you to a duel, but maybe to chart his own course and destiny. But you interfere with that process. So there's a scramble, and the Southeast have become a bazaar of sorts. So in leadership recruitment in the Southeast, the best is not usually the critical focus. It is those who will do the bidding of the masters that have been able to corner the power in the Southeast, such that year after year, the Southeast remains a pygmy in terms of development, And yet you have giants in all fields of endeavor, in the business, in commerce, in academics, in creative industries, and all over the world, and all over the country. The Southeastern people are doing exploits in their own individual way, but there's no effort because of that spirited element that is insistent on holding the Southeast down through poor leadership. And where any leadership is about to show any desire, trouble is fomented for that person. Or some of them are sucked in with certain grotesque promises that out of their own personal whims, they fall for. So the party aspect has not been positive. There's a party interference. Party provides a command structure for the Southeast. And because of the type of characters that are recruited in leadership, they fall into that chain. They don't bring anything to the table in terms of their own intellectual input to modify whatever that have been handed down as instruction. So party has a negative impact in the Southeast. And we could see that playing out in all fronts. Some people were promised that they will be made the president of this country. And they started jumping because somebody said, if you want me to behave like a monkey, you give me banana. So they threw banana and they started jumping like monkeys. And you could see at the end of the day, at the primary, some of them didn't even get votes, one single vote, to show that they were even at the party primary, and so on and so forth. And they mentioned some other parties that are even one party, like in Anambra State. There was a time that ABGA had focus in the sense of trying to provide itself as the rallying point of the Southeastern politics, even if people belong to other political parties. Just in the same manner, you had UPN operating as a rallying point for the Southwest, even if some people belonged to the NPN in those days, and so on and so forth. But these days, we don't have focus. There's no philosophy. There's no ideological orientation by leadership. And everything is just whatever you find their way, you pick it. And because of that, a rudderless leadership will lead to no destination. Just imagine, in physics, they say certain elements are vectors. A vector has direction, it has quantity. So even the aeroplane, when there is a wind in the storm in the air, it knows where it wanted to head to, and the pilot will continue to steer it because it has direction. Even if it is veered off, it is focused at the end of the day to veer it back to the direction. The same thing, you enter a vehicle, you say you want to go to Shagamu. I should not see you on the way to Cotonou. That shows rudderlessness. And people should not be wafting in the air like ordinary wool, because wools, once they are in the air, they have no direction of their own. It is the direction of the wind, and the winds are not designed to carry them to their own destination. So you chart your own course. So the Southeast has been made to look like a bazaar, where in the classical situation of bazaar, each child comes with a plate to take from the basin of rice. At the end of the day, you take your own rice home, and the basin remains empty. So that is what the Southeast is. The governors, they plunder, they take and join the Senate or the House of Rep or become anything else outside the state government.
All right, Dr. Nnaji, you described, referred to some of the Southeastern governors earlier as crooks. What is this statement or opinion founded on? Are you suggesting that there's been a deliberate neglect of their respective duties in their respective states on the parts of these governors? And just curious as well, in light of your views around this topic, is there a particular governor or a couple of governors that you can say confidently have actually shown exemplary work in southeastern Nigeria?
Is it the current governors or just governors both in the past?
They can be governors of the past. Somebody that gives us an idea of what you consider an exemplary governor from southeastern Nigeria.
Very well. There was a reference by your colleague to the issue of maybe the resources that are available. It is not so much about the resources available. It is the use to which you intelligently and prudently put these resources. After all, savings, they say that somebody who saved money is hoping that the money will save him tomorrow. If you want to do a project, you may not have the money together. You begin to put money together until the money gets to the point where you can put it and deploy it. If, for example, we have had a lot of issues or maybe testimonies about Peter Obi, investment in education. There are things you invest in, they have multiplier. If you continue to spend money on feeding your children, you are doing well. But when you die as a parent, where does that leave the children? The world will not come and continue where you stopped feeding them. But if you, as you fed them to be alive, and you focus them on their own personal development, to chart a course for them, so that when you are no longer there, they will be able to cater for themselves. If, for example, when Peter Obi was a governor, we heard he spent money to give every child laptop, invested in education, and it reflected in the outcome in the national results, the national exams, and so on and so forth. Human development has no alternative. If you build roads, that's fine. But where there are no human beings that will ultimately use those roads to effective end of maybe getting multipliers, they will deteriorate. Of course, because they deteriorate over time, even if they are not used, roads will deteriorate. The same thing with other public infrastructure. If people are not there to use them productively, which perhaps in the process of educational development, they have been trained, their capacity enhanced, their level of confidence and creativity expanded to even build further on the, say, infrastructure. Nothing will happen in future. That state has no future. And that is the problem. The decay that is happening in the Southeast is that there is no development that assures that there will be further development. In the sense that, for example, educational development, go there. Many people are now looking for how to make money. You want to go and trade. Trade without capitals. So you hawk, you start from the rudimentary and all that. Maybe you begin to make 5,000 naira when your mates are still in school, begging for money. You think that you have ingratiated yourself by so becoming. It is not. And many of these governors know better because their own children are being trained abroad. They're investing heavily, state money, because some of them were nobodies. And those whose names were known was only in the newspaper and television. It's not as if they are so materially endowed. But today, they have become multimillionaires. I'm not saying that everybody, each and every one of them is the same. But there is a gradation of criminality going on in the state, the Southeast.
So, Dr. Nnaji,
the very people.
Are you confirming that Peter Obi is the
yes.
person? Okay, just to clarify that.
Okay, all right.
Peter Obi was certainly one of the exceptions. Certainly one of the exceptions, because everybody has known now. I didn't know this much when he was the governor, because he was not on the radar. But today, you can see how everybody has scrutinized him. The scrutiny on Peter Obi is unprecedented. It is just like doctors going to the rectum and they could not find feces because the individual has been able to clean his system properly. So I don't know of any other presidential candidate or any other candidate for that matter, whether governorship, state government, Senate, or any of the chambers of the National Assembly that have been subjected to the kind of scrutiny. And he just comes out glowing. And that's why some of us believe that he's the future of this country. And the youths, who the future belong to, are gravitating around him.
Okay, all right, Dr. Nnaji. I mean, where you are now is actually interesting, because that was where I was coming to. You mentioned Mr. Peter Obi as an exemplary governor who was, you know, exceptional, which is interesting, given the fact that practically all the Southeast governors signed on to the fact that they wanted power to come to the South. And a lot of people argue that if power should come to the South, ideally, for fairness and equity, it ought to go to the Southeast. But all of a sudden, things seem to turn around. You know, party factor, as you said, you know, has come in. Peter Obi of Labour Party is one Igbo or a presidential candidate from the Southeast. Dr. Umeade, Peter Umeade of ABGA is another, but of course we can conveniently say that Peter Obi is the front liner among the top four that are running to be president. However, none of the governors, not even the governor of Anambra State, that is a governor of ABGA that produced Peter Obi when he was governor of Anambra State, is supporting Peter Obi. We have not seen any major Igbo name behind him. Just a few, you know, VIPs that you can say they're supporting him. His base has been an organic growth kind of people, you know, oriented movement. Does it bother you that at a time that people would think that it will only be fair if the Southeast is able to produce a president, and they found somebody that even you attest, you know, is exemplary, but will it bother you that no big Igbo name, no single governor of the southeastern Nigeria has come out openly and boldly to queue behind his candidacy?
I am not surprised, and it wouldn't bother me even a single minute, because a system will select its own people. Even in Charles Darwin's world, the survival of the fittest, it is those who are fitted to the environment that is emerging that always survive. Peter Obi was accused as an ethnic candidate. And if it pleased God to wither those people who would have come with that albatross for Peter, then so be it. You don't know about the absence of a grocer in a market peopled by grocers. No single grocer can claim that he has the materials that will present an exceptional patronage or utility to those who come to the market. So the market is a motley market, and in a political environment like this, it is only people who share your vision about tomorrow that will naturally aggregate around you. They say that the position of the ego provides envy and jealousy in the kite, because the kite can never assail to the soaring height of the ego, if you get my drift. Some of these people think that once they say power should come to the Southeast, they will position themselves to do what they had always known how to do best, how to kill the interest and motivation and the future of the Southeast, and sell the thing on a platter of selfish aggrandizement. And here you see a young man. Yes, I use that word very advisedly. You might say Peter Obi is 60 or whatever. It is not so much about the number. You see the vitality. You see the way he thinks. If you have the mind of the youth, and you are 90, and God gives you the strength, the health, and the vision to articulate that properly, the youth will not look at you as a 70 or 80-year-old man. They will get around you that so you have experience, you have the passion, you have their interest that way, because the life of the youth is futuristic. It is not here, it is tomorrow. And S.C. Catherine said, I'm interested in tomorrow because that's where I intend to live. those who are at the bus stop today, should not begin to bother about the kind of transport that will be available tomorrow. Let me just leave it at that. But the most important thing is that nobody who has understanding of what is happening in the Southeast will bother that none of these governors, because like I have painted the picture in my preliminary statement, leadership is about articulation of the desire and the needs of your people and providing the visionary steps on how to achieve them. Putting the strategies, that shows that they don't have the interest of the people at heart. And so they have gone their own ways. Does it not surprise you, if you want to use the word surprise, that every effort, frenetic effort is made to bring some of these characters on television to always say that Peter Obi will not win? If Peter Obi does not win, will he die? Is it a family issue? If he cannot win, then let him go. Just who says that the other parties or the other candidates will necessarily win? But the truth of the matter is that the war is psychological. Very, very psychological. And unfortunately, those who are involved in psychological war are not versed in psychology, both as a discipline and its practice. Because we know that it is only the man who has the ball that is tackled in a football tournament. And the tackle becomes very vicious if the price is very, very high. Those people who don't understand should watch the Qatar activities, the World Cup. The point we are making, when you hear Peter Obi this, Peter Obi that, Peter Obi this, it is a blessing. It's a blessing in disguise. One, Peter Obi have been bereft and exorcised of all the spiritual and the ghostly content of those people who have held Southeast down. And those who have become themselves an attachment to the so-called albatross that also have held Nigeria down. So on that strength, they are out. Peter Obi then comes in a puristic sense. So people say, but he was in PDP. He came from Abga. Would he have come from the moon? When you are a leader and when you were a follower, the difference is clear. Because the view of the road differs when you are on the steering as driver than when you are on the side as passenger. Because you know, I afford to look and say there's a masquerade on the side, which have been seen by the driver from a distance. But he cares less because he has a direction. Peter Obi has shown that his interest is to deliver this country from these unproductive elements who are interested in wasting our assets in the same way they have wasted their lives. Because many of them have wasted their lives, and so they see politics as the only means of income. Even as they may have been trained as medical doctors, they have lost the syringe. And the nation also lost that training. Some of them can no longer inject a rat, and the rat will be expected to survive, which is a tragedy. Politics is not a vocation. Politics is service. It's a vehicle through which you serve the society by way of giving back based on what you have been and from which you got from the society.
All right.
It is not a vocation. Let's say a professional politician. No.
All right.
You serve, and you serve in humility, because power speaks most volumes when it is exercised with humility.
All right, Dr. Nnaji, how much...
In essence...
in essence, yes. Go on, please. Go on. Okay.
Yes. In essence,
yes.
What I'm saying is that nobody misses those characters who are not endorsing Peter Obi. And we can see that those who are there endorsing are not doing well. Because the more they endorse them, the more they lose credibility. Because if you see a wretched person begging in the street, trying to pray for you, who is a multimillionaire, that God will make you rich if you dash him money, how do you look at it? If God himself may have been punishing him for the bad thing he himself has done to make him a beggar, how can his prayer add to your affluence? So Peter Obi is fine.
Yeah.
And we are very fine with him. And we want a new Nigeria where every Nigerian will wake up not caring about who is in power, his access to good livelihood, to humanity, to dignity. You know, there are ways you look at yourself in the mirror, you start crying because that was not the way God intended that you should look. You're looking like marasmus. We are run down by poverty and pestilence. And that is orchestrated by your own fellow human being.
All right,
and
Dr.
they refuse
Nnaji,
to die.
Just a quick
and the
one.
younger ones are dying.
Okay, just a quick one before we let you go. You said that it's a psychological war. You know what the big wigs in the Southeast are doing with Peter Obi. But what is not psychological?
Yes.
The type of war that is not psychological is the one on INEC formations, on INEC offices, burning them down, etc. Are you bothered that if this escalates, it might jeopardize or even, you know, scuttle the elections? If you check the newspapers today, particularly the cover of today's This Day, you will see the report about 2 democracy institutes in America, you know, saying that IPOB, Amotekun, Ebubeagu might spark election violence. If you also, you know, put that in view with what Fitch said the other time, that if Peter Obi does not win and the candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, wins, that there is the likelihood that the obedience might foment trouble. We have also had the Chief of Defense Staff saying that there is an intense pressure on the military to scuttle the elections. Are you worried that INEC might be the target so that the election does not hold, or if it holds, it becomes inconclusive? Are you worried? What's your faith in this election that is coming in February and March next year?
I am not worried. I may be concerned, but not worried. Because this is not the first time. We saw that during the Goodluck Jonathan, even if it may be coming from a different angle. And let me tell you the honest truth. It appears the issue of IPOB, all those is overblown. It's blown out of proportion. What has the government done, the agencies of government, the security agencies done, even with the so-called stay at home? Have they interfered positively? Or was there a kind of, it serves them well, let them die in the process and all that? The government agencies, you know, security agencies don't seem to have been very active in that sense. In the same manner that they were able to manage the Northeast crisis when it reared its ugly head to interfere with the elections. Why I'm not worried is that God is beyond all those shenanigans. He will always and has always intervened at the appropriate time, in the appropriate measure, to save this country from further crisis, far beyond the expectations of those who designed it. What you have been saying, the institutes and all the NRI and the American institutes and the Fitch and all these things are in the realms of speculation, just like prophecies. Prophecies may never manifest if you put prayer in place, the kind of prayer with the relevant steps that will induce the intervention of God. But I believe that God knows that 2023 is a very serious date with destiny in this country. And he will accept, and we don't see it. We have not seen that God wants to make sure that this country is finished. He has not finished with this country. He's just about to start. He will demolish all those impediments that have held these giants called Nigeria. We have remained in the realm of potentials, that this is a potential country that has leadership in the African firmament. We are giants with a foot of clay. And we believe that 2023 will be the unleashing, the process, the stage, the point at which this Nigeria, under God, will unleash its potentials. To the total happiness of those people who have held it down, and many of whom who are going older, they need to be taken care of in their old age. But just like when you defecate on the road, that you are going to the market, when you are coming back, you'll be visited by flies and all that. But by God's grace, they will be spared the disgrace of having those flies pester on them. Because we believe that God's grace, just like it happened in the time of the Israelites, Moses was brought under God, in spite of the shenanigans and all the manipulations of Pharaoh. After all, where is Pharaoh today? The Egyptian history is replete with pharaohs, but there's no Pharaoh today. That was the last encounter of a Pharaoh. And so 2023 will be the last encounter of those people who believe they can hold this country. Nobody can hold a nation down for too long. Or nobody can even hold somebody down for too long, because you may want to go and ease yourself. And once you want to go and ease yourself, if the man knows that you are no longer on top of him, he will run away.
Right, Dr.
So, by God's grace, 2023, no matter the shenanigan, no matter the attribution where it does not exist, that these are the people that will cause the problem, and you do nothing to stop it if you have the capacity. By God's grace, the people of this country will have cause to say, once and for all, hallelujah. Glory be to God.
All right, Dr. Chima Nnaji, that's a good place to round it up. And of course, we certainly enjoyed your adages and maxims as well. Thank you. Have a good day ahead.
Thank you.
It's